Man abandons loyal dog and puppies in the wild, but fate has other plans. The sun hung low over the countryside, casting long golden shadows across Daniel's small farm. His once thriving land had turned into a place of struggle. The crops barely grew, and his livestock had thinned out due to sickness and bad weather. Every day felt heavier than the last. The weight of unpaid bills and constant failures made him colder, harder. Luna had come into his life unexpectedly. She was a stray, a thin, white-coated dog with gentle brown eyes that held a quiet kind of sadness. One stormy night, she had wandered onto his land, shivering and drenched, her ribs showing through her soaked fur. At first, Daniel had ignored her, too lost in his own problems to care. But when she didn't leave, when she sat outside his porch for days, refusing to abandon the farm, he finally gave in. With a sigh, he opened the door and tossed her some scraps. "You can stay," he muttered half to himself. From that moment on, Luna became his shadow. She followed him through the fields, lay by his feet as he worked, and barked at any stranger who came too close. She was more than just a stray now. She was his only company in the silence of his failing farm. But Daniel never truly saw her as more than just another animal, a tool, like his rusting tractor or his broken fences. She guarded his land, chased away foxes, and never asked for anything in return. That was enough for him. One chilly morning, Daniel walked out to the old barn and found Luna curled up in the hay, her body shielding something small and warm. His stomach twisted as he stepped closer. Puppies, 6 tiny, wriggling bodies nestled against Luna's belly, their eyes still closed, their little whimpers soft against the morning air. Luna lifted her head and looked at him, her tail wagging slowly, her eyes filled with hope. Daniel's jaw tightened. This was the last thing he needed. More mouths to feed, more lives depended on him when he was already drowning in his own misery. His hands curled into fists. "Damn it, Luna," he muttered. She didn't understand his anger. She only saw him, the man she trusted, the man she had chosen to stay with when she could have left at any time. She gave a small, happy bark, nudging one of the pups closer to him as if expecting him to be proud. But Daniel wasn't proud, he was furious. For days he avoided them, refusing to acknowledge the little lives growing in the barn. The pups grew stronger, their tiny cries turning into playful yips. Luna doted on them, cleaning them, feeding them, curling around them at night to keep them warm. Daniel tried to ignore the warmth in his chest when he saw Luna nuzzle her pups, when he heard their tiny barks echo through the barn. But every time he looked at them, all he saw was another problem he couldn't afford. One night, as he sat at his kitchen table, staring at the stack of unpaid bills, the decision formed in his mind. It was the only option. He couldn't take care of them. He didn't even have enough food for himself, let alone 6 puppies and their mother. They had to go. The next morning, he walked to the barn with slow, heavy steps. Luna lifted her head when she saw him, her tail wagging lazily. She had no idea what was about to happen. Daniel reached down and picked up the first pup. It squirmed in his hands, letting out a tiny whimper. The sound made his chest tighten, but he forced himself to push the feeling down. Luna stood up immediately, her ears perked. She watched him carefully, her body tensed. She didn't understand, but she knew something was wrong. One by one, Daniel placed the pups in an old wooden crate. Luna let out a low whine, stepping closer, nudging his arm with her nose. "Don't look at me like that," he muttered. Her tail dropped, and she let out a soft, pleading whimper. Daniel swallowed hard, grabbed a thick rope, and looped it around Luna's neck. She didn't resist. She trusted him. She had always trusted him. The old pickup truck rattled down the dirt road, kicking up dust as it sped toward the woods. Luna sat in the back, her ears pressed flat against her head, her body curled protectively around the crate of her pups. She still didn't understand, but her eyes never left Daniel, watching him through the cracked glass of the truck's rear window. The drive was long, silent. Daniel didn't look back. He kept his hands tight on the wheel, his jaw locked. The trees grew taller, the road rougher. He drove deep into the woods, far from any homes, far from anyone who might hear the cries of the abandoned. Finally, he reached a clearing. The place was still and quiet, the kind of quiet that made the world feel empty. Daniel shut off the engine. For a long moment, he just sat there, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. Then with a deep breath, he stepped out. Luna perked up, her tail wagging slightly as she watched him walk to the back of the truck. She thought they were on a trip. She thought he had brought her here for an adventure. He pulled her out first, then the crate of puppies. They squirmed, their tiny paws reaching blindly for their mother. Luna pressed against him, licking his hand once, her way of saying, "I'm here. I trust you." Daniel's stomach twisted, but he ignored it. With quick, practiced movements, he tied Luna's leash around the thick trunk of a tree. The rope was tight, too tight. She wouldn't be able to slip free. Luna wagged her tail, still hopeful, still believing in him. He took one step back, then another, and then, in a voice void of emotion, he whispered, "I'm sorry." Luna's ears perked. She tilted her head, confused. Daniel turned and walked back to the truck, his boots crunching against the leaves. Luna let out a short bark, not a cry, not a plea. Just a small, hopeful sound, as if saying, "Okay, I'll wait. I know you'll come back." Daniel climbed into the driver's seat. His hands shook as he started the engine. Luna wagged her tail once. Then he drove away. He didn't look in the rearview mirror. He couldn't. The last thing he heard before the trees swallowed him was the soft whimper of a mother calling for someone who would never return.
The moment Daniel's truck disappeared into the trees, silence fell over the clearing. Luna stood still, her ears twitching as she listened for the sound of his return. The puppies whimpered inside the crate, their tiny bodies huddled together for warmth. She wagged her tail once. Then again. She waited. Minutes passed, then an hour. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in deep shades of purple and orange. The forest, once calm, began to stir. The rustling of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the snapping of twigs under unseen paws, all sounds Luna had never truly paid attention to before. A shiver ran through her body. Where was he? Her ears pricked at the distant growl of some unseen creature. Fear coiled in her belly, but she turned toward the crate, nudging it with her nose. Her puppies whimpered, blind and helpless. They needed her. She pulled against the rope. It was thick, the knots tight. She bit at it, but the rough fibers scratched her tongue. She tried to slip her head free, but the collar held firm. She whined softly, glancing at the road where the truck had vanished. Still, she waited. But as the cold deepened and the night stretched on, the truth settled in. He wasn't coming back. The realization sank into her bones like ice. The man she had trusted, the one she had chosen to follow, the one she had loved, had left her here to die. Luna whimpered, her body trembling, but her eyes landed on her puppies once more. She could not afford to be weak. The night was merciless. Cold winds howled through the trees, cutting through her thin fur. The puppies whimpered louder, their tiny bodies seeking warmth she could no longer provide. She curled around the crate as best she could, shielding them with whatever little heat she had left. Hours passed. The forest grew darker. Then the first real threat arrived. A pair of glowing eyes emerged from the shadows, their yellow gleam like twin flames in the dark. A coyote. Luna's ears shot up, her body stiffening. The creature crept closer, its hungry eyes darting between her and the crate. Luna growled, low and deep, her body moving instinctively to shield her pups. The coyote hesitated. It had not expected a fight. But Luna was weak. Tied to the tree, she had no way to lunge, no way to chase it off. The coyote took another step forward, baring its teeth. Luna barked loud and sharp, a desperate warning. The coyote paused, considering its options. It was alone, but Luna was restrained. It could wait, and so it did. For hours, it lingered at the edge of the clearing, watching, waiting. Luna never let her guard down. She stood between her puppies and the predator, her body shivering with exhaustion, her stomach twisting with hunger. But she did not move. She did not sleep. By dawn, the coyote was gone, but Luna knew it would return. When the sun finally peeked through the trees, its warmth was a cruel comfort. Luna turned toward the crate, nudging the tiny bodies inside. But something was wrong. 4 of them lay still. Luna let out a sharp whimper, nudging them again. No response. She licked their fur, pawed at them, desperate to wake them, to feel their warmth. But it was too late. The cold had stolen them from her. A broken sound escaped her throat. She curled around them, her body shaking with something she did not understand. Loss. The remaining 2 puppies squirmed blindly, their tiny mouths searching for milk she could no longer produce. She had failed them. No, she could not think that way. She still had 2. She still had a chance, but she had to get free. Luna turned her attention back to the rope. She gnawed at it, yanking and twisting, her teeth working against the thick fibers. Every bite sent pain shooting through her gums, but she did not stop. For hours, she fought. Her mouth bled, her neck ached from pulling, but she would not stop. Her puppies whimpered, their cries growing weaker. She could not stop. And then, finally, a snap. The rope frayed, then split apart. Luna stumbled forward, stunned for a moment. She was free, but she could not celebrate. There was no time. With the last of her strength, she nosed open the crate and gently lifted her 2 surviving puppies by the scruff of their necks. She had to move. She had to run. Luna stumbled through the trees, the weight of exhaustion pressing down on her. She had never hunted before. She had never needed to. Food had always been given to her, fresh water always in a bowl. Now the wild expected her to fend for herself. Her first attempts were clumsy. She chased a rabbit but lost it in the underbrush. She snapped at a bird but it flew out of reach. By nightfall, hunger gnawed at her belly, but she pushed forward, searching for water. Her nose led her to a small stream, the water cool and fresh. She drank deeply, then nudged her puppies forward, watching as they suckled weakly, their tiny stomachs hollow. It was not enough. They needed more. The next day, she tried again. This time, she was patient. She crouched low, ears pricked, eyes locked on a mouse that scurried through the grass. She waited, then pounce. Her teeth snapped shut around the tiny body, the taste of blood filling her mouth. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. She returned to her puppies, sharing what little she had. Day after day, she learned. She learned to listen, to watch, to wait. She learned which berries were safe, which scents meant danger. She learned to blend into the shadows, to move with silence. She was no longer just a dog. She was becoming something more. One evening, as she followed the scent of prey, Luna felt something shift in the air. She was being watched. The scent was different, wild, strong. She turned her head slowly, her eyes scanning the trees. Then she saw them. Wolves. A pack of 5, their bodies sleek and powerful, their golden eyes glowing in the fading light. They stood in silence, their heads low, their expressions unreadable. Luna's heart pounded. She curled her body around her puppies, baring her teeth. The largest wolf stepped forward. The alpha. His scars told stories of battles long won, his eyes sharp with intelligence. Luna braced for the attack, but it never came. Instead, the alpha tilted his head, sniffing the air. His gaze flickered to the puppies. Then, in a moment Luna would never forget, he made a low sound, something between a growl and a breath, and the wolves backed away. Luna watched, stunned, as they disappeared into the trees. They had spared her. For the first time since Daniel had left her, she felt something stir inside her chest. Hope. The forest was not just danger. It was not just fear. It was a place of survival, a place of change, and she was learning how to live in it. She was not broken. She was not abandoned. She was becoming something stronger, a silent guardian, a mother, a survivor. The days passed, turning into weeks. Luna had adapted to the wild in ways she never thought possible. She was no longer the frightened dog tied to a tree, waiting for a master who would never return. She was a hunter now, a protector. Her 2 surviving pups, now stronger, followed her through the forest, their little legs stumbling at first, but growing more confident each day. She taught them what she had learned, how to listen for danger, how to move without making a sound, and how to find food and water. She had never raised pups in the wild before, but instinct guided her. She found a small cave tucked behind thick bushes, hidden from predators and the cold. It became their home. At night, she curled around her puppies, keeping them warm, listening to the sounds of the forest, always ready to defend them. The loneliness that once haunted her had faded. She did not need Daniel. She did not need the farm. She had everything she needed right here. One morning, while searching for food, Luna picked up an unusual scent. It was faint but familiar, like wolves, but different. She followed the scent cautiously, her ears pricked. It led her to a small clearing, where she saw something that made her chest tighten. A wolf lay still in the grass, its body lifeless. But beside it, whimpering and huddled together, were 3 small wolf pups. Their eyes were barely open, their tiny bodies weak from hunger. Luna hesitated. They were not her own, but they were helpless, alone, just like her own pups had been. She stepped forward, her nose touching the smallest one. It let out a tiny cry and tried to crawl toward her warmth. A memory flashed in her mind, her own pups, cold and still, lost to the merciless night. She would not let that happen again. Gently, she lifted one pup by the scruff of its neck and carried it back toward her cave. She returned for the others, one by one, until all three were curled beside her own pups. It did not matter that they were wolves. They needed her, and she would not fail them. Raising 5 pups was not easy. The wolf cubs were different from her own, sharper, more instinctual. They played rougher, learned faster, but they accepted Luna as their mother, following her just as her own pups did. Her little family was an unusual one, a dog and her mixed litter of wolf and dog pups, but together they thrived. She taught them to survive. She took them to the stream, where they learned to drink from the rushing water. She led them through the trees, showing them how to walk silently. She hunted tirelessly, bringing back food even on the nights when her legs ached from exhaustion. She did not allow herself to rest. She had already lost too much. She would not lose them too. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and gold, Luna sensed something in the air, a familiar presence. She turned her head, her ears perking up. Through the trees, silent and powerful, the alpha wolf emerged. His golden eyes met hers, unreadable yet calm. Luna stood protectively in front of her pups, her body tense. She had not forgotten the last time she had seen him, the way he had spared her life when she had been nothing but a broken creature in the woods. The alpha stepped forward, his gaze shifting to the wolf cubs nestled among Luna's own. Then, to her surprise, he did something unexpected. He let out a deep, rumbling breath and lowered his head. It was not a gesture of dominance. It was acknowledgement. A silent understanding passed between them. She had raised the cubs as her own. She had proven herself as more than a survivor. She was one of them now. Then, as quickly as he had come, the alpha turned and disappeared back into the trees. But Luna knew he was watching. The forest had not only tested her, it had accepted her. Luna thought she had seen the worst the wild had to offer. She was wrong. One morning, as she scouted the forest for food, she caught a scent that made every muscle in her body stiffen. Danger. The scent was not from the wolves she had come to know. This was different, more brutal. A rival pack. She raced back to the cave, her heart pounding. The pups were playing near the stream, unaware of the looming threat. Then from the shadows they emerged. 5 wolves, their fur bristling, their teeth bared. Their leader, a massive, scarred beast with eyes cold as ice, stepped forward. Luna placed herself between the pups and the intruders. She growled, her body tense, but she was outnumbered. The rival wolves lunged. Luna fought with everything she had. She bit, scratched, and dodged their attacks, but they were stronger, faster. One clamped its jaws around her leg, and pain shot through her body. She would not win this fight, but she would not let them take her family. Then, just as the leader of the rival pack moved in for the final blow, a piercing howl cut through the trees. Luna's ears perked. The alpha, and he was not alone. From the shadows, his pack emerged. The battle that followed was fierce. Luna, though injured, fought alongside the alpha's wolves. The rival pack, caught off guard, struggled to hold their ground. The alpha himself clashed with their leader in a brutal fight, teeth and claws tearing through fur. One by one, the intruders were forced to retreat, their leader limping away with his tail low. When silence fell, Luna stood, panting, blood staining her fur. The alpha approached her once more. This time, he did not look at her as an outsider. He looked at her as one of them. Seasons passed. Luna's pups, both dog and wolf, grew strong. They could hunt, run, and fight. She had given them everything they needed to survive. One crisp morning, as she walked through the trees, she caught an unfamiliar scent. Human. Her fur bristled. It had been so long since she had smelled them. She followed the scent, moving carefully, and then she saw him. Daniel. He looked different. More tired, more hollow. His farm had failed, his livestock gone. He had come to the mountains looking for something. Food, shelter, maybe even regret. Luna did not know. For a long time, she watched him from the shadows, her heart pounding. Then, slowly, she stepped into the light. Daniel froze. His breath caught in his throat. He knew those eyes. "Luna," he whispered. She did not move. He took a step forward, his hand outstretched. There was something in his eyes, an apology perhaps, a realization of what he had done. Luna held his gaze. Then behind her the shadows shifted. Her pack emerged, her family. Daniel's eyes widened as he saw the wolves, tall, strong, fierce. He took a step back. Luna did not growl. She did not bare her teeth. She simply turned away, and with her pack by her side, she disappeared into the trees. She had made her choice. She was never going back. She was not a pet. She was not abandoned. She was free. She was the silent guardian of the wild, and she would never be caged again.